Have you ever met someone and felt like you've known them forever? Not just a sense of comfort, but something deeper. A recognition so sudden it stirs something ancient inside you, like a door quietly opening somewhere you didn't know existed. That's how it started for Emily. She was in her mid-30s, living a quiet life in Colorado. Divorced, not looking for love, healing, mostly, and trying to understand why her heart carried so much weight she couldn't name. Then came the dream. In it, she was standing in a field of wildflowers. The sky above was orange with a fading sun, and there was a man smiling at her, not with excitement, but familiarity, like someone waiting patiently, knowing she would return. He reached out his hand and said just one thing. "You finally made it back." She woke up in tears, not sadness, not fear, but a kind of longing that didn't make sense, because she had never seen that face before in her life, or so she thought. 2 weeks later, Emily attended a friend's dinner party, and across the room, she saw him, the man from her dream. Same eyes, same quiet smile, same presence that made her feel like she had already loved him in another lifetime. She froze. He walked over, and as they spoke, she couldn't shake the feeling. "This isn't new. I've been here before." But here's the thing. Emily wasn't someone who believed in past lives. Not really. She grew up in a pragmatic home. Science, logic. Keep your feet on the ground. So she tried to dismiss it. Maybe it was a coincidence, a trick of the mind, a dream that got stuck and shaped what she saw. But her heart wouldn't let it go. She began dreaming of him again, but this time, in places she'd never been. Another era, another name, another version of her. So she did something she never thought she would do. She booked a past life regression session, not out of curiosity, but because something inside her refused to stay silent. Because sometimes the soul whispers until it can't, and then it screams. What happened next wasn't just a story about love. It was a story about remembrance, about soul recognition, about how some connections don't begin. They return. She didn't go back in time to find love, but love found her in the past. And in that moment, her inner world began to shift. She began to see her life, her choices, her patterns, even her heartbreaks through a lens she had never considered before. Not as isolated events, but as part of a longer story, one that stretched beyond this lifetime. In the next chapter, we'll walk with Emily into that first regression session, what she saw, what she remembered, and the life that came flooding back to her when she finally closed her eyes. Let's go there together, to the moment where memory and mystery finally met. When Emily first stepped into the therapist's office, she wasn't sure what to expect. It smelled faintly of sage and old books. The lights were low. A couch waited by the window, draped in soft blankets, and in the air, something she couldn't name, a kind of quiet anticipation. The therapist didn't promise magic. She simply said, "All I do is guide. What comes up is yours." Emily lay back. She closed her eyes, and slowly, with each breath and every soft word spoken to her, she began to drift, not asleep, but somewhere else, somewhere just beneath the surface of waking life. This is what past life regression actually is. Not time travel, not fantasy, but a gentle process of opening the subconscious, where images, feelings, and impressions rise not from imagination, but from somewhere deeper. Researchers like Dr. Brian Weiss and Dr. Ian Stevenson have documented thousands of cases where people under hypnosis recall names, places, even dialects they were never taught. But what's even more fascinating is how often those memories are about love. Not fame, not money, but relationships, connections, moments of joy, betrayal, loss, longing, the timeless echoes of the heart. And for Emily, that's exactly what rose up. She saw herself standing on cobbled streets, wearing a dress she had never seen, but somehow remembered the weight of. She was young, 19, maybe, living in France. There was music in the air, string instruments, the clinking of glasses, and then the sound of footsteps. She turned. It was him, the same man, but different. His hair was longer, his hands calloused. He wore a soldier's coat, but the eyes were the same. In that vision, she loved him deeply, and then she lost him. A war took him, and she remembered. in that session, not just the moment of his death, but the years she spent alone after, unable to love again, waiting without knowing what she was waiting for. When she woke up from the session, tears ran down her face, not of fear, but release. It was as if a weight she had carried her whole life without understanding had finally lifted. She said, "I didn't realize I'd been grieving someone for centuries." And here's the thing, this happens more often than you might think. People return from regression with memories that help explain why they fear intimacy, or why they're drawn to certain faces or places. They suddenly understand their strange sense of loyalty to someone they've just met. Because maybe it's not the first time they've met them. Science often dismisses these cases as coincidence, false memory, or projection. And sure, not every regression is literal, but when thousands of people describe similar feelings, similar dreams, similar patterns, at some point, you have to ask, is there more to our stories than just what we remember in this life? Emily didn't walk away from that session with a perfect answer, but she walked away with a new question. What if the person I just met isn't a stranger at all, but someone I once promised I'd find again? In the next part, we'll explore what happened when Emily faced that man in real life, after seeing his soul in a dream. How do you tell someone that you've already loved them in another life? And how do they respond when deep down they feel the same? Let's go there, to the moment when the past began to shape the present in ways neither of them could have predicted. Emily's breath slowed as the therapist's voice guided her deeper. In her mind, colors began to change, sounds faded into softness, and then, like mist parting in a forest, she saw it. A narrow cobblestone street, lamps flickering, the soft rustle of dresses and boots on stone. She was standing beneath a stone archway, wearing a simple ivory gown with embroidered sleeves. The year was somewhere in the late 1700s, she didn't know how, but she knew it was France, and she was waiting. There was music nearby, violin and piano echoing from a salon, but her eyes kept scanning the end of the street, waiting for someone. And then he came. Tall, dark wool coat, leather satchel slung across his chest, the uniform of a soldier, but not yet hardened. His eyes were kind, and Emily, the woman in the memory, felt her heart lift before he even said a word. They met under that archway, week after week. It was quiet love, gentle, steady. He would write her letters by candlelight, read her poems, press small gifts into her hands, and she would wait for him every evening. Even when the war grew nearer, even when the letters became shorter, even when the rumors began, then came the final meeting. His hands trembled when he touched her cheek. He said he would be sent to the front, but he promised. Je reviendrai, I will return, but he never did. In the regression, Emily felt everything the past version of her felt. The silence, the waiting, the candle burning low, the hollow ache in her chest that stretched across years. She never married. She never loved again. She died alone, and as Emily watched herself take those final breaths in the regression, a part of her here and now broke open. Tears ran silently. Her hands clutched the blanket on the couch. But it wasn't sadness, it was release. She whispered through trembling lips, "I've been carrying this my whole life." When the session ended, she didn't speak for several minutes. She just sat in stillness, hands over her heart, as if something lost had just returned. She said it felt like finding a missing part of herself. But the true moment of reckoning came a few days later. Emily, still shaken by the session, decided to revisit the man she had met at the dinner party. The man who looked like the one from her dream. They had coffee, talked, laughed, and then she did something bold. She showed him an old drawing she asked an artist to make based on her regression vision. A sketch of the soldier under the archway. Same posture, same eyes. He stared at it for a long time, then looked up at her, visibly shaken. "I don't know why," he said, "but I feel like I've dreamed this before too." His name, it shared a root with the one she'd heard in the regression. His handwriting, it curled the same way, looped, delicate. His gestures, uncannily familiar. It was like recognizing a face you hadn't seen in centuries, but never truly forgot. Emily didn't need proof, because the feeling in her chest was louder than any logic. In that moment, they both smiled, not because they understood it all, but because something old had been remembered. They didn't fall into each other's arms. There was no dramatic music, just two souls sitting quietly, like old friends who had waited long enough. And from that day on, Emily's view of love changed forever. She no longer asked, "Will I find the one?" She began asking, "Who have I already loved, and am I ready to love them again?" In the next part, we'll dive deeper into what this means. Can past life memories truly shape our choices in love today? What does science say? And why do so many people report these same strange synchronicities? Let's explore the intersection of soul memory, destiny, and the skeptics who try to explain it all away. Emily's story feels deeply personal, emotional, symbolic, even poetic. But for many, stories like hers raise a simple, skeptical question. Isn't that just a coincidence? And to be fair, science has long taken a cautious stance toward anything involving past lives. The dominant narrative frames it as a psychological phenomenon, false memories, suggestion, or cryptomnesia, when the brain recalls something we've read, seen, or heard without realizing it. In the case of past life regression, the argument goes like this. Under hypnosis, the mind becomes imaginative. It draws on stories, books, emotions, fabricating memories that feel real but aren't. It's not deception, just the brain doing what it does best, constructing meaning from fragments. That explanation satisfies many, but then there are cases that don't fit, like the ones collected by Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, who dedicated decades to studying over 500 children around the world who claimed to remember past lives. These weren't vague feelings or dreams. They included names, dates, villages, and causes of death, many of which were later verified. One child in Sri Lanka remembered being a school teacher who was hit by a bus. He gave the name of the town, the exact school, and even the name of the bus driver. Investigators later confirmed the accident and that the teacher had indeed died in the way described. Another case, led by Dr. Jim Tucker, involved a boy in the U.S. Samoa who recalled being a Webby fighter pilot. He knew the type of plane, the location of the crash, even names of crewmates. All matched historical records, details the boy had never been exposed to. And it's not just facts that emerge. In many cases, birthmarks and physical deformities corresponded to fatal injuries from the previous life described. A child recalling being shot in the chest, born with a puckered mark exactly where the bullet would have entered. A girl recalling a life ended by a sword to the neck, born with a birthmark that doctors could never explain. So where does love fit into all this? Surprisingly, many of these children also spoke of spouses, family members, and unresolved relationships. In some cases, they insisted on visiting those families, and when they did, they recognized people, pets, even rooms they had never seen in this life. Skeptics call these cognitive projections or parental influence. But when a 3-year-old names people he's never met, walks through a village he's never visited, and goes directly to his old home with no guidance, at some point, coincidence begins to wear thin. Now let's go back to Emily. Her regression didn't provide historical names or war records. It wasn't provable in a traditional sense. But what was undeniable was synchronicity. She dreamt of a man before meeting him, described his features, his habits, even the way he held a cup. When they met in real life, those details matched, and the name, a variation of the name she recalled in regression. Not exact, but close enough to feel like a whisper from time. This is the realm of Carl Jung's synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that defy statistics, but feel deeply personal. It's when life seems to echo something from deep within you so precisely, so eerily aligned that you're forced to stop and ask, is this just chance or memory? Because if love is energy, and energy cannot be destroyed, then perhaps what we call past life memory is really the soul's way of tracing its own resonance through time. Think about it. Why do some people feel instantly familiar? Why are we drawn to certain faces, sounds, or cities? Why do some stories ache as if we've lived them ourselves? The science is still catching up. But the stories like Emily's keep multiplying. They speak of a deeper logic, one that isn't always empirical, but is undeniably human. So maybe the question isn't, can we prove it? Maybe the better question is, if your heart remembers something your brain can't, would you trust it? Coming up next, we'll explore what happens when people misunderstand past life love, how some chase the wrong person, confuse obsession with destiny, and fall into spiritual traps. Because not every soul connection is meant to be repeated, and not every memory is a map to happiness. Let's talk about the common mistakes and how to recognize true healing when it arrives. Not every connection from a past life is meant to be rekindled, and not every feeling of familiarity means you've found the one. This is where many people, including those like Emily, can lose their way. Because after a powerful regression, after seeing a face, a place, a moment that touches something ancient in the soul, it's easy to fall into a kind of spiritual urgency, a rush to assign meaning, to find that person, to make the story continue. But here's the truth. Healing doesn't always mean reunion. Sometimes, it means understanding why the story ended. Let's talk about some of the most common mistakes people make when chasing love through past life memories. Mistake 1. Confusing intensity with destiny. That overwhelming pull you feel towards someone. The butterflies, the fire, the "I've known you forever" rush. It could be a soul connection, but it could also be a karmic echo, an unresolved pattern returning, not to complete a love story, but to teach you something about yourself. Emily admitted that, for a while, she wanted her story to be a romantic fairy tale. She wanted to believe the man from her dreams had returned to love her again. But after months of knowing him, she realized something deeper. He was the same soul, but we weren't the same people. They had both changed in this life. Their paths were aligned for recognition, but not reunion. And that was okay. Mistake 2. Forcing regression to reveal what you want to see. Many seekers go into past life regression with a script already in mind. They want to see a soulmate. They want to justify a current relationship or escape a painful one. They want answers tailored to their emotional needs. But regression doesn't work like that. It's not a romantic oracle. It's a mirror. And sometimes that mirror shows you not who you loved, but who you hurt, or who hurt you, or who you couldn't save. Love, in the language of the soul, isn't always tender. Sometimes it's tragic. Sometimes it's unfinished. And sometimes it's not meant to be repeated, but understood and released. Mistake 3. Using past lives to avoid present pain. This one is subtle. Some people cling to past life stories to avoid doing the hard work in their current relationships. They say things like, "We were lovers in another life. That's why we argue so much now." Or "She must be my twin flame, because we always break up and get back together." But soulmate wounds don't justify toxic patterns, and karma is not an excuse for chaos. As spiritual teacher Caroline Myss once said, "Past lives are not for entertainment. They're for instruction. If the lesson is real, it should lead to growth in this life, not a detour from it." So what's the right way? Emily's story could have gone down that path. She could have romanticized the man from her dream. She could have clung to the fantasy, but instead, she listened. She spent time reflecting. She journaled. She returned to therapy not for validation, but for integration. And what she found was this. It wasn't about being with him again. It was about forgiving myself for all the lifetimes I didn't know how to love. And with that, she began to approach love differently, more gently, more wisely. She stopped searching for the one and started becoming the one who could love freely. Without fear, there's a quiet power in letting go of the idea that everything must come full circle. Sometimes, the most profound soul connections are not meant to be lived out again. They're meant to remind us of what we're capable of feeling, and then to help us carry that depth into something new. In the next part, we'll explore exactly that. What lessons can past life love stories teach us about how to love now in this lifetime? And how do we use those memories to open our hearts, not to the past, but to the future? Emily once believed love was something you either found or lost, a yes or a no, a beginning or an ending. But after her regression, her view changed. She realized love could stretch across lifetimes. It could pause. It could transform. It could even return not in the same form, but with the same heartbeat. That realization brought her to a deeper question. If love is eternal, what are we meant to learn from it in this lifetime? And the answers were more grounded than she expected. Quantum. Some people are meant to return, but not all are meant to stay. Just because someone feels familiar, just because your soul remembers them, does not mean they are meant to walk this life with you. They may have come to remind you of something, to help you awaken a part of yourself, to guide you to the next chapter, not to be the chapter. Emily saw this clearly. The man from her regression helped her heal a wound that had haunted her for centuries. But once it healed, she no longer needed the story to continue. She had received the gift, and she let it go with grace. Love is not about holding on. It is about becoming. So many people believe love is about finding someone to complete them. But what Emily's journey revealed was the opposite. True love in any life is not about filling the gap. It is about awakening the whole. The man she remembered helped her see what kind of love she was truly capable of. Devoted, gentle, deep. And once she remembered that, she realized she could give that kind of love again, to someone new, to herself, to life itself. Your past does not define your future. It simply informs it. Emily had spent years afraid of opening her heart, afraid of losing, afraid of loving too much and being left behind. But once she remembered the story from France, the heartbreak, the loss, the long years of waiting, she finally understood the root of her fear. And when we understand, we are no longer trapped, she said. I spent this life guarding my heart because I never grieved the last one. That awareness gave her freedom to choose differently, to open up, to trust again. 40. Real love honors the present. This was the most important lesson of all. It is easy to get caught in the beauty of past life stories, to romanticize the ancient, the tragic, the poetic. But none of it matters if we cannot bring that wisdom into today. Emily began living more fully. She listened more deeply. She loved more honestly, because she knew now. This life is a chance to love better than before, to rewrite the story, to bring the soul's memory into the heart's action. And for many people, that is the quiet miracle of past life regression. Not that it tells us who we were, but that it shows us who we are still becoming. That the soul is not a broken record, repeating the same song. It is a composer, writing new music with each life, drawing on the echoes of old melodies, but always moving forward. In the final part of this journey, we will return to Emily one last time. We will ask the question many fear, but secretly hope for. What if the heart remembers more than we think? And what happens when that memory leads us back to love, not just as an emotion, but as a kind of soul wisdom? Stay with me. We are almost there. In the months after her regression, Emily changed. Not in dramatic, outward ways, but in quieter, deeper ones. She smiled more. She spoke with a calm certainty. Her fear of being alone faded not because she had found someone, but because she had found herself. When asked what the experience truly gave her, she didn't talk about past lives or soulmates, or she said something simple. I stopped needing love to look a certain way. I just started recognizing it more often. The dreams became less frequent. But when they came, they no longer brought sadness. They brought a kind of warmth, like remembering a good book you once loved. A reminder that life is layered, that not everything we feel is born in this moment, and not every goodbye is forever. So what do we make of stories like Emily's? Some will say it is memory, some will say it is metaphor, and some will say it is fantasy. But for those who have felt it, the unshakable familiarity, the pull towards someone you just met, the dreams that do not fade, the experience is as real as anything else in life. And maybe, just maybe, that is enough. Because whether or not we prove past lives in a laboratory, we cannot deny what the heart knows. A few things we can take away. Love is bigger than timelines. It stretches across moments, lifetimes, and versions of us we cannot yet explain. Healing begins when we remember, not just facts, but feelings. When we stop running from what we sense deep inside. Soul recognition is not rare. It happens more often than we think, in a glance, in a voice, in the stillness between words. So if you have ever felt something you could not explain, a connection, a knowing, a love that felt older than the moment, do not rush to dismiss it. Ask yourself instead, what is this memory here to teach me? Maybe you are not going crazy. Maybe you are remembering, and if you're still wondering, Emily did find love again. Not with the man from her regression, but with someone new, Someone she met after she let go of the story she thought she was supposed to relive. And when she looked into his eyes for the first time, she didn't feel a thunderbolt, she felt peace. It was the first time love didn't feel like a search, she said. It felt like a return. If this story touched something in you, a feeling you couldn't name, a memory you didn't know you carried, a longing that still lingers, I invite you to share it in the comments. What do you remember? What connections have you felt but could never explain? And if you want to explore more stories like this, real regressions, soul awakenings, and the mysteries of love across time, make sure to subscribe, because next time, we'll tell the story of a little girl whose dreams of a lost husband led her mother to uncover a love story buried 20 years in the past. Until then, trust what the heart remembers. It may be older than you think,